Echoes of the lighthouse. The first time Elara saw the lighthouse on the cliff, she thought it was breathing. Mist wrapped around it like smoke from an invisible fire, and each slow sweep of its beams seemed to pulse with something alive, like a heartbeat. She had come to the coastal town of Halewick to escape the noise of her old life, renting a weather-beaten cottage near the edge of the cliffs for the summer. She told herself she was here to write, to finally finish the novel that had been haunting her for years. But deep down, she knew she was running, from grief, from silence, and from the memory of a man she'd once loved and lost without ever saying goodbye. Halewick was small, the kind of town that still believed in whispers more than headlines. Fishermen mended their nets by the docks, children chased gulls through the fog, and every evening, the same beam from the lighthouse cut through the dusk like a blade. Locals said it was haunted, but Elara didn't listen. She wasn't afraid of ghosts. Not anymore. The cottage smelled faintly of cedar and salt. It had no internet, no television, just the slow rhythm of waves against rock and the creak of old wood settling at night. It was, in a word, perfect. On her second evening, as she unpacked a box of notebooks and photographs, she found one picture she didn't remember taking. An old photograph of a man standing beside the lighthouse, his back turned to the camera, a scarf fluttering in the wind. Something about his posture tugged at her. Familiar, though impossible. She turned the photo over. No date, no name. Just one line scrawled in faded ink, "You said you'd find me here." She froze, heart thudding. She didn't recognize the handwriting, yet something in it made her throat tighten. Maybe the previous tenant left it, she reasoned. Or maybe it belonged to the cottage's owner, a quiet man named Mr. Callum who lived up the hill. Still, she slipped the photo into her notebook, unable to throw it away. That night, she dreamed of waves crashing against black rocks, of a man's voice calling her name through the mist. When she woke, the sound of the sea was different, deeper, heavier, almost mournful. She stepped outside, barefoot, and saw the lighthouse beam flickering. Then it went dark. By morning, the light was steady again. The townsfolk at the cafe didn't seem concerned, though they did glance at her oddly when she mentioned it. "It happens sometimes," said the barista, an elderly woman named May. "The light falters when the keeper's restless." "The keeper?" Elara asked, stirring her coffee. May's lips curved faintly. "You'll hear stories. Don't let them frighten you. The lighthouse has had many keepers, but only one never left." Elara tried to smile. "You mean, like a ghost story?" May leaned closer. "Like a love story. Or both. Depends on who's telling it." That night, curiosity tugged her toward the cliffs. The wind was sharp, smelling of rain and iron. As she climbed the narrow path toward the lighthouse, she half expected to find it locked and deserted. But the door stood slightly ajar. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of seaweed and dust. A spiral staircase wound upward into the tower. Somewhere above, she heard faint movement, a creak, a step. "Hello?" she called. "Is anyone here?" No answer, but the air seemed to shift. She climbed the stairs slowly, her hand brushing the damp railing. Halfway up, she found a coat hanging on a hook. A man's coat, heavy and worn, still damp as if recently used. Her pulse quickened. The top of the tower opened into a circular room with glass walls. A lamp mechanism turned slowly, its gears clicking in a soft rhythm. And there, standing beside it, was a man. He turned when she stepped closer. His face was pale in the rotating light, his eyes gray as the storm outside. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "I didn't mean to intrude. I thought the place was abandoned." "It isn't," he said. "Not entirely." He was tall, with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends, and a voice that carried something old in it, something measured. She felt, absurdly, that she'd seen him before. "Are you the keeper?" His gaze lingered on her face, as if searching for something. "Once," he said at last. "A long time ago." Lightning flashed through the glass, illuminating the waves below. When she blinked, he was gone. Elara stumbled back, heart racing. The tower was empty, save for the whisper of rain against glass. She rushed down the stairs, tripping on the last step, and burst into the night air. The door slammed behind her, though there was no wind. She didn't sleep. She sat by her window until dawn, watching the lighthouse beam sweep across the fog like a slow exhale. By morning, she convinced herself it was imagination. Light, shadow, exhaustion. She hadn't eaten properly in days. She needed rest. But when she opened her notebook that afternoon, another photograph slipped out. This one of herself, standing by the cliffs, wearing the same sweater she had on now. Written beneath it, in the same faded ink, "You found me again." Elara's hands shook. The photo was old, yellowed at the edges. Impossible. And yet, she remembered the cliffs. She remembered the wind. Had she dreamed this before? A cold awareness crept through her. Maybe the lighthouse wasn't haunted by someone else's story. Maybe it was hers. Over the next few days, she tried to focus on her writing. Words came and went like tides, sentences half-formed, ideas that dissolved as soon as she reached for them. And still, every night, she felt the pull toward the tower. Once, she caught a shadow moving along the cliffs, a figure with a scarf trailing in the wind. She called out, but her voice was lost to the sea. She returned to May at the cafe. "The man in the lighthouse, who is he?" May hesitated. Some say his name was Elias, a keeper who vanished during a storm, nearly a century ago. His fiancée was a writer, came here every summer. They say he waited for her, even after the sea took him. Elara swallowed. What happened to her? "No one knows," May said softly. "She left one winter and never came back. Some folks say she still writes him letters. Others say he answers." That night, Elara stood at her window again, the wind howling through the cracks. She whispered, "Elias." The light flickered once, then twice, then steadied. She felt something warm brush her cheek, a breath, a whisper, a memory. She wasn't sure. The next day, she found herself walking to the lighthouse again. This time, the door was closed, but unlocked. Inside, she found a journal on the table beside the stairs. Its cover was cracked, its pages brittle. The handwriting was familiar, the same looping script from the photographs. She turned the pages, breath-catching. August 14th. The sea has been cruel. Still, I wait. She said she'd return when the light calls her back. September 2nd. I think I saw her in the fog today. Or maybe it was just the wind. October 9th. If she remembers, she'll find this. A final entry, December 1st. The storm comes tonight. If I keep the light, she'll see it. If I fall, perhaps she'll follow. Elara pressed her fingers to the ink. It was dry, faded, but the emotion behind it felt raw, alive. She turned the last page and saw a folded letter tucked inside, sealed with a rusted pin. Her name was written on it. Her knees weakened. She tore it open. Elara, if you read this, then time has been kind, or cruel, or both. You will not remember, not fully. But I have kept the light for you. Every lifetime, you find me here. Every lifetime, the sea tries to take one of us first. This time, I hope it fails. Her heart pounded. The edges of the room blurred. A faint hum filled the air, the low groan of machinery, or maybe the sound of breath. Then the light faltered again. "Elara," a voice said behind her. She turned. He stood there, real this time, close enough for her to see the faint line of a scar along his jaw, the salt in his hair. His eyes held hers, steady, mournful. "I didn't think you'd come back." "I don't understand," she whispered. "You don't have to," he said. "Not yet." Lightning cracked across the sky. He reached for her hand. His touch was warm, too warm for a ghost. "I've waited through storms and silence. Every time, you leave before the sea calms. Don't go this time." She wanted to speak, but the floor shuddered beneath them. Wind slammed against the tower, rattling the glass. He pulled her close. "The sea remembers us," he murmured. "But so does the light." The next moment dissolved into chaos, waves crashing, glass splintering, the sound of something breaking loose. Then, darkness. When Elara woke, she was lying on the shore, soaked and trembling. The lighthouse stood silent, its light extinguished. The journal was gone. The only thing left beside her was a scarf, frayed and damp, smelling faintly of salt and cedar. The townsfolk found her wandering the cliffs at dawn. They said a storm had passed through in the night, though no one else saw lightning or rain. The lighthouse was still intact, but the lamp was shattered. "Strange thing," May said quietly. "That light's never gone out. Not in 100 years." Elara tried to explain, but her words came out thin and unreal. She packed her things that week and left Halewick before winter fully set in. Yet she couldn't bring herself to throw away the scarf, or the photograph, or the faint sense that someone still watched from the edge of the mist. Months later, back in the city, she published a story, Echoes of the Lighthouse. Critics called it haunting and timeless, the tale of two souls bound by storms and memory. She never told anyone how she wrote it, or why the final page ended mid-sentence, as though someone had taken the pen from her hand. But sometimes, when the fog rolls in over the river outside her apartment, she swears she sees a beam of light sweep across the sky, just once, faint and slow, before fading into dawn. And in those moments, she whispers his name again, quietly, as though she might summon him, not from the past, but from whatever place holds unfinished love. Somewhere between the sea and the sky, a voice answers, soft, patient, and familiar. "You found me again."